Welcome to the Kelly and Erinn Show. We're so glad you're here.
We're a mother-daughter duo and founders of Kelly's Bake Shop. We built a nationally recognized brand, faced unimaginable challenges, and have chosen to rise again and again, all in the pursuit of a life aligned with truth, freedom, and love.
Each week, we're sharing real, unfiltered conversations about entrepreneurship, healing, and expanding through personal growth, and choosing joy, even when life gets tough.
This is your invitation to come home to yourself. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of the Kelly and Erinn Show. We are so happy that you're here with us today. And today, I really get the special honor of interviewing Kelly about something that she's been working on over the past 7 or 8 months now and sharing this incredible story. So today, we're diving into Kelly's very deep and very personal chapter in The Sovereign Volume 2 that just came out. And this book is a book that really brings together the voices of extraordinary women who have dared to reclaim their power, speak their truth, and live life on their own terms. So in her chapter, Kelly shares this raw and very powerful story of resilience and ultimately sovereignty, and what it really means to choose yourself, even when the world around you says that you shouldn't. So let's get into it, Mom. Are you ready to dive in to everything about The Sovereign?
I am. I think it's time, and it was just launched on June the 17th. So it's now available for the public to purchase. And I'm so excited.
Awesome. Amazing. So I thought it would be fun if I started just by reading out the first sort of mini chapter here, your intro in your chapter of The Sovereign. And this is like the cover of The Sovereign here. And there's 14 different authors that are a part of this volume. And then there's 2 more additional volumes on top of this one that just got launched as well. So lots of just incredible stories from women and men from all different walks of life. So here is the first chapter. So it's called You Can't Cancel Love. We were now publicly humiliated on a level that was beyond human comprehension. The minutes turned into hours and hours turned into days. It was agonizing to watch your life blow up in front of your very eyes, and there was nothing we could do. We began to lose our will to live. So obviously there's some very juicy, very intense, very, soul-stirring conversations and things that you've shared in this book. And I think let's just kind of jump into it. Like, why did you really want to be a part of this book? Why was it so important for you?
Well, I think the last 5 years has been, at times very tumultuous. The divide in this world and how we've all been sort of pulled apart. And really the pandemic started it all. I mean, it kind of started before that, seeing the divisive outlooks on things. And you and I were really deeply impacted with cancel culture. And so much so that there was a time in the summer of 2020 that, we just didn't want to wake up because it was so painful to go through what we were going through, and you weren't able to stop it. It was like totally losing control of your life, or the illusion of the control that you think you have of your life. But how quickly, it can be destroyed, and your perception of it being destroyed. So I felt that it was time for me, because we had gone through so much. We hired lawyers, we did a civil litigating, we sent out legal letters to, cease and desist letters to people to stand down with what was going on, because so much of it was completely unfounded bullshit, and just calling it as it is. But we were left with, though, the aftermath of this life that was like in pieces, and trying to pick it back up again and put it back together again. And knowing Sarah Swain and the first Sovereign, the first volume, we were big supporters of it. I was a big supporter of it, and bought many copies, gave many copies away as presents and stuff to people, to allow us to feel like we weren't alone. Because what we were all going through on different levels and in different areas, but it was all the same stuff. It was like this total destruction of our life. We were losing friends, we were losing family members, we were being ostracized, we were being separated, we were being divided, we were divided out of schools, out of sports programs, out of businesses, being locked out of gyms, whatever. We were, everyone had their thing that was so hard to move through. For me, I chose to be in this volume 2, after reading volume 1, and it was a cathartic reason. I was at the stage now of my life to purge and release the things that no longer served me. So this story that I had been hanging on to for 5 years, there was a time, and I felt it like that was the calling of the fall of last year when this opportunity came up to become an author in this book. And I resonated with it. So in that moment, in the fall of last year, I was ready to put it in print and use it as a catalyst for, because you and I had both spoken about writing our own book called You Can't Cancel Love, and bringing it into our world and showing people what we actually went through on a very deep level of what me and you want to do. So this book was going to be the entrance to it, and the start to purge. And I think that each of our stories are so important to share out there. And I was really looking forward to it. And it took a few months. And anyways, it was definitely well worth it.
Yeah, and it's honestly so well written. It's so well done. And like you said, Mom, it's like this little snippet it's basically like the Coles Notes version as to what we've moved through over the past few years, and just such a jumping off point for us to take that next step into, if we want to share it more deep in the future, because there are so many stories, there are so many things that have happened over the past years and beyond that we could definitely write a full novel about for sure. So obviously this book is written, from your perspective through the last few years since, 2020 until present day. So I want to ask you, in those like dark nights of the soul, how did you find the courage within yourself to rebuild yourself, rebuild your life, rebuild just who you were as a human being when, like, with so much integrity, when parts of you and so much of, your own world have been falling apart?
I mean, the strength came from, and the courage came from knowing that no one was coming to save me. The realization of that. And it wasn't my husband at the time. It wasn't you. It wasn't Michael. It wasn't the business. There was nothing that you could depend on. And I mean, through the grace of God too. I mean, there was a moment though when we were hitting some really dark times during that summer of 2020 that we had a legal team that came out of nowhere. And that was really for me a big catalyst into being able to feel validated, to feel like we weren't losing our minds, to feel that maybe our story was worth getting out there. And it was, it was picked up by whatever, the Toronto Sun and different media outlets were picking it up because the world had gone suddenly so dark and with so much hate. And I wasn't used to that. I didn't know what I was dealing with because it was disbelief of it. And really the courage came from my own activation, the journaling, the going out into nature, the realization that I had to build the energy and the frequency back up inside of myself and to be able to look at it with a whole other perspective that, I was still alive. There's a chance here I was going to lose everything. But if that was the case, I'm going to just make it back again. Like it was taking apart this whole massive blow up, this whole destruction, and then grabbing parcels of it and morsels of it to go, yeah, but I can overcome this. Yeah. Okay. So I can overcome this. And bit by bit, I was clawing back my life again. And until it was no longer an issue. The cancel culture was no longer an issue.
I love that. That's a beautiful, beautiful answer. And I would say, the idea of no one is coming to save you, I think is a topic that we can dive into tenfold in a full episode, because you have to take your own power back. You have to be your own sovereign being, which is the title of this book. So I wanted to ask you, what does being sovereign, or what does sovereignty mean to you as a human being? And like, has that changed over the years, or has that evolved for you over the years?
To be sovereign to me, being the captain of my own ship, it's reducing my dependency on the government and any kind of outside forces, anything that's on the outside. And it could be grocery stores, it could be the bank, it could be government bodies, just all of it is creating a self-sustaining life that I actually can live at my house for months at a time and not have to leave my home. And it's developing the courage and the knowledge and the trust and the faith that I'm just passing through I'm not here to save the world, but I am here to become the best human possible, to be an absolutely beneficial, positive influence into the world. And to be sovereign means that there is no one ever coming to save me, not a man, like not a husband, not my daughter, not my son-in-law, like no one in my family, like nothing is coming to save me. And really, do I need saving? So it's a shift in perception to me that I am just am. It's the beingness and being so powerfully strong and committed to who I am, the beingness of who I am, realizes that I don't need saving, really realizing that there is nothing to save, and that my life, when you zoom out to it, my life is just a passing through. I'm going to say this is weird to maybe to some people, but this construct, this realm, this earthly plane that I've created, my perception of it. The world that I experience is how I view myself. And that is being sovereign. That is everything that I see in the outside world is what I've created. And I think that that is probably as best as I can explain.
I love that. I think that was a beautiful explanation. So is there something, that you could say to someone, because obviously sharing this story and sharing this truth, like you said, it was very cathartic for you, but I know within this chapter as well too, you said it was very difficult for you to unearth these feelings and to like write about them and to think about them and to pull up old things that we had been going through back 5 years ago. So is there something that, you would say to someone who is nervous about sharing their truth or sharing their honest feelings or sharing their stories of struggle and resilience? Like, is there something that you would say to someone who's struggling to move forward in that?
Well, I mean, I guess we've had these many conversations between the two of us, even because I'm definitely more of the vocal one. And I think that comes with age and the confidence within myself of what I've experienced in my life, knowing that no one can hurt me, nothing, no one can hurt me at all. I can only hurt myself if I allow it to happen. And our voices are so needed. So when there's no resistance to this tyranny and to this oppositional sort of, forces that are at play right now, because anyone who's got blood flowing through their veins right now knows that there's something weird happening in this world. So, we all have varying degrees of knowledge. We have varying degrees of openness too, to be able to accept that there is some things that are happening in this world that are not what we've ever been taught to believe. The lies are being exposed a lot, but we're all on this path of knowledge to learn more about the truth of our existence, but we're all at varying degrees of openness. So no matter what you do for a living, be it if you're whatever, you're in the school world, or if you're working in a blue collar job and, assembly lines, making car parts and stuff, or you're in government, or, because there's an awful lot of government employees in Canada. Like, we know that, right? Lots of them. And like, no matter what you do, there is only one person you're accountable to, and that's yourself. And you know that. So if you're not living authentically, and if you're not living with the freedom in your voice, you're not living with the freedom of your truth, of what you are, what you believe in, your opinion is. These things are so important for us to shape culture, and for us to be able to move through these next iterations of who we are becoming, who we are meant to be, our highest selves. What does that look like? But if we continue to jump on the bandwagon and cancel people and judge people and hurt people and be this like a negative force out there to keep people, you want to keep people small because that makes you feel comfortable, right? If you're attacking me and you're attacking my opinion on the world or my viewpoint, that I am open to look at the world with an openness of nothing final, but I'm open to hear other people's opinions, and I'm open to hear stories, and I'm open to hear people's experiences. And like, is that true? Like, all the time, I am very open and very fluid. But this is what is part of being on this earth, is for us to become more fluid, like be this water that's going down a river, and you're bumping off this rock and you're bumping off this rock, but you're staying on your path kind of, but you fall off it every now and then by bumping off rocks because you're listening to this or you're listening to that. But there's this openness to learn. Everything has has an opportunity to infuse us with knowledge and wisdom. And I think that that is so important, that our voices are absolutely required. It doesn't serve us, actually, to be honest with you. What it does is just cause dis-ease, like dis-ease, when we are not in alignment with our truth. And this speaks louder than this. So this brain, this heart brain, is what shares truth with you when you slow your life down enough, and in the stillness of nature and the stillness of your aloneness, and you listen to the voices coming through, you listen to the stories, you can actually feel things intuitively if they are resonating with you to be a truthful topic, or something that's just, feeding you full of, lies. So anyways, I don't know if I went around in a total big circle there, but I think that it's so important for us to grow as humanity, as a culture, as a planet that has a chance of potential survival. It's time for all of us to rise in our truth.
100%. And there's honestly so much that you just said that I want to talk more about, because, I feel like we noticed it 6 or 7 years ago that this sort of us versus them rhetoric was starting to come out into like the mainstream, where people were getting canceled and silenced, and, you don't believe the same things that we believe, or, you didn't approach the situation the way that you're supposed to approach it, so you're canceled as a result. And it just seems like these nuanced conversations, 7 or 8 years ago, we'd be able to believe completely different things and still be friends and still love each other. And it feels like more and more in today's world, if you don't completely agree with someone one way or another, then you're canceled and you're exiled and you're a terrible human being. And it's like, isn't this what makes Canada a free country? Isn't this what makes Canada a place where, you can have difference of opinion and still actually, love each other and care about each other and work together and be friends and be in a relationship with one another? So I think that it has shifted a lot. That cancel culture I would say probably peaked in like 2020, 2021 kind of timing. However, now, I've noticed it myself with different podcasts I've listened to and different people that I've followed, that it seems like this tide is now turning back, where more and more people are just saying, like, why are we doing this cancel culture stuff? Like, this is just stupid. People are allowed to believe what they want to believe and approach situations the way they want to approach it. And we can all still like each other, care about each other, and we don't need to cancel each other as a result. Why do you think, and maybe do you think, that the tides have turned with cancel culture, like I'm saying? And like, why do you think that is?
Well, I think that there was a lot of propaganda back in 2018 and 2019 that was pushing people to be pigeonholed.
Yeah.
Talk about what we went through in 2019 was with the LGBTQ community, and like I love gay people. Like I'm just saying it, like, I'm 60, almost 62, but like I wasn't raised with the politically correct world, right? So I know enough to cut people in my generation some slack with how they talk about things, because we weren't raised with the social justice warriors that are out there right now to teach you how to say things properly, right? So regardless, we experienced it firsthand there, and it was funny enough that since 2010, we were the business in downtown Burlington at Kind Food and Let Us Love Cafe and Kelly's Bake Shop. Kind Food in particular, in 2010 when we opened there, we were the first business to hang the pride flag. Our center of our universe that we love traveling to as a family, and even myself too, just going to Palm Springs, California, which is, a very, very high percentage of LGBTQ like world. And my best friends are gay. Like it's my thing. I love their design ethic. I love everything about them, right? And when we were attacked, and we were in June, I guess it was, of 2019. And I'm just going to say, our opinion is unfairly so. The LGBTQ community can say that it was fairly so. So what I'm saying, there's this divide that happens, right? In the big picture is like, are you kidding me? We were an ally. We were donating money to Pride foundations, gay foundations, and we were very involved in it. But what happened in that moment in time was we went, wow, this feels so uncomfortable now for us to be publicly supporting that. even though we still do in our hearts, but to put our neck on the line and publicly support something with the chance now of getting canceled, like what they did was with the, what's the word I'm looking for, but for the rising up of like, for their mission, their vision that they wanted to bring out into the world, it backfired and it actually stopped people from supporting them. And from like, love is love. That was our hashtag forever. We were all about gay marriage. We were all about, love who you want. We don't care. We just want everybody happy and to follow their hearts. Right. So anyways, it was very fascinating. And I think that is what's happened is, for example, with the Toronto Pride Parade this year, Home Depot and Google, was it Google? Home Depot and Google both dropped their funding of the Toronto Pride Parade. So now the Toronto Pride Parade has a deficit of about $850,000 that is now going in the hole. And that's going to be on the taxpayers now of Toronto, from what I understand. Like, don't quote me, but from what I understand, this is what I read. So this is what's happening now, is that there's this divide happening, and people are not willing to necessarily put their neck on the line any longer because they've realized they've now ostracized another part of the community. And so, it's very hard to maneuver through that in the corporate world. So I really believe that there is this awakening happening, and everything all bottles down to love. Like, we all want to be loved. We all want to be connected. We all want to be a part of something. And I think that there's been so much hitting and so much dividing happening that people are exhausted. They're so tired of it. They don't want to hear about this divide and worrying about this group or worrying about this group or worrying about this group. Everyone's having a hard time just being in their own group, which is their own life. And I think that that's what's happening, right?
Yeah, totally. That was beautifully said. And I definitely agree with what you're saying there for sure. So to wrap this up a little bit, I would love for you, because I love your final couple of paragraphs, in The Sovereign here. And I would love for you to read it to everyone so we can kind of close this beautiful podcast out. And also, before you jump into it, I guess people can find this book on Amazon, right? The book is available on Amazon?
Yes, it's available on Amazon.ca. Actually, when I said that out loud, I knew you were going to ask me that. So I can't answer that because it is a Canadian publishing, but I would imagine that I think it's going to be international. Like I said, I think with it just being launched 2 days ago on June 17th, I think that they've got some, publishing journey things that they got to do.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. Well, hopefully by the time that this episode is published, then it'll be more available. But yeah, Mom, if you want to take it away, you can read these last couple of paragraphs and we'll send it off from there.
Sure. Yeah, because this was important to me. If I can add to this before I read it, that with this cathartic experience of, purging what no longer serves you, because that was Kelly from 2020 and Kelly from 2021 and Kelly from 2022 when we went through those different cancel culture times. And I learned from it and I grew from it and I released myself from it through writing this chapter. And it was important, though, to keep it as a screenshot, and I get to put it away in my other journals of my life. And because right now in this present moment, life is moving forward, and where my energy needs to be served is growing something that is more beneficial for humanity. Because I really believe that cancel culture is going away.
Great.
So here's my chapter or the paragraph that I want to read, or that you had found for me too. So I began to ask what my purpose was in this book and my chapter. What goodness could I bestow upon it, as opposed to shocking you all with the negative truths of the sheer cruelty of cancel culture? To only be allowed to submit so many words to our editor, my hands were tied to not go too deep, which I think has been a good thing. I do believe that we can create extra suffering by rehashing dark times in our lives. And it's always to our benefit to shift the perception of things happening in the outside world to love. When you zoom out to the truth of our existence and understand we are here on earth for such a fleeting blip, in this human avatar, everything comes into a new perspective. And my definition of success is not financial. It's about being of service to the world. It's about the hearts we've touched and changed the course of their life as a result. We've courageously stood in our authentic truth and encouraged others to do the same. and being publicly canceled and witnessing the sheer destructive energy from this turned out to be the biggest blessing of our lives and changed us forever. We are now, even more so, a brighter beacon of truth and resilience for the world. Love does win.
I love that. That's so beautiful.
And it does. This is what we have to remember, is that love wins. It flows through our veins. It's our very essence of who we are. It's the only thing that is real. And you can't have faith and love and fear at the same time. So when we choose to live our lives in fear and thinking that World War III is going to happen, or I'm going to lose my business, or, I'm going to lose my lifestyle, or I'm going to lose something. Is it something that you really even had in the first place? That's what you have to ask yourself. What is real? And the only thing real is our love for humanity, our love for ourselves, the love that comes from within. This is where it is. We create what we see in the outside world.
Beautiful. Speechless, absolutely speechless. Thank you so much, Mom, for sharing just all of this. This is so beautiful. And I really hope that in the future we have the opportunity to, expand on this in the most beautiful, love-centered way that we can, because I think it's really important to share this with people and to share, being these phoenix rising from the ashes and moving through these really, really difficult times and building this resilience and building this grit as human beings. But again, always approaching it from a love-centered place, which is what we've always done. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of this. And thank you so much to everyone tuning in here, whether you're watching us on YouTube or Spotify, or you're listening to us on Apple. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to our podcast. We would love that so much, and leave us a review. We'd be so grateful for it. And until next time, and please go to amazon.ca and go and buy a copy of this book. There's 14 other incredible stories in this book. And then there's volume 3 and 4 as well that is out right now. And you can also get volume 1 that came out a couple of years ago as well. But thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon.